We're on the top of Kuf Yud Beis, and we're talking about things that are dangerous and should be avoided. The Mesochar, this is a bloodletter, a Mekis Dam, and Velo Mashi Yode, and he doesn't wash his hands off afterwards. Mefachid, he'll have a kind of anxiety attack, Shiva Yomi, for 7 days. The Shakal Mazye, if he cuts his nails, Velomashi Yod, he doesn't wash his hands, Mafchid Tlasa Yom, he'll have 3 days of anxiety. The Shakil Tufre, what's the difference between Shakil Mazye and Shakil Tufre? He says here that Shakil Tufre is Notel Tzuparnayim, what we said before about cutting his nails. And Shakil Mazye is a haircut, cutting his hair. In both cases, if Lo Mashi Yodeh, he doesn't wash his hands, Mefached Chad Yom. He'll bring himself into a state of anxiety. If he doesn't wash his hands after a haircut, it's a 3-day anxiety. If it's after he cuts his nails, it's only a 1-day anxiety attack. Lo Yoda Mai Mefached, and he'll never know exactly in all these cases that we mentioned why he's in the state of fear. The Gemara says, Yida Usya. If a person is used to putting his finger al sfas liad nechirav on his top lip, right near his nostrils, is darga lefachada. That is a darga. Darga is a sulam, a ladder, and it will be a way in which he climbs up towards a state of fear and anxiety. It's a ruach ra. Yade apusa, and if he puts his hands on his metzach, on his forehead, darga l'shinta. That's also a ladder to a state in which he might come into lahar dam. Now, lihira dam, excuse me. In other words, he'll come to a state of sleepiness. Now, it could be that what really the Gemara has in mind here is that these behaviors are expressions or reflections of his state of anxiety. So if he's anxious, he'll constantly put his hand under his nostrils, or he'll put his hands on his metach when he's very tired. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, Ochlin umashkin tachas amita, to leave food or beverages under a bed, afilu mechupim bechli barzel, even if they're covered by a metal utensil, ruach ra shora alein. There's a ruach ra. We think of ruach ra only on the hands in the morning, but there's also ruach ra on food that's left under a bed. Hatam, he says in the bottom, mishum sheshina hi echad mishishim b'misa, that sleep is 1/60th of death. V'nishmaso shel adam yotzeis b'sheinos. To some extent, his soul departs his body while he's asleep. L'chein shorol of ruach tuma. It's like a death tumas mess. Umayil ala ochlin. And now he is a tent over the food that's underneath the bed. And shorlam ruach tuma. And this he says in the name of the Torah's Chaim. Now, it would be logical to assume that according to Torah's Chaim, if somebody is sleeping on the bed, that's why the Tumas Oel, so to speak, would be chal on the food underneath the bed. But if he's not sleeping on the bed, he quotes here an interpretation of the Pri Hasada Chebemitam Yuchedes Lashina. As long as this bed is dedicated for sleeping, Afshe B'Shasha Ein Yoshen Al Mitaso, even though right now no one's sleeping on the bed, Shora Ruach Tuma Ruach Ra Al Ha'ochlin. And it could be that that's only a child, a bed that's dedicated for an adult, but mitas tinok, a crib, is ein lochush b'diavad. We're not so worried about it. Then he quotes the Ben Ichai, l'chalik bein mita sheyoshen oleh l'mita she'ochel oleh. Okay then. We learned in a brisa, Lo yishta adam mayim lo belele revios velo belele shabbosos. So apparently on Friday nights and Tuesday nights going into Wednesday, these are nights when there are mazikin available or found to be, they're regular. And therefore, that's not a good time to drink water in the dark. And he says here that this is based on the Rashbam, Ruach Ra'a Shora Be'ishon Laila Mafela. This Ruach Ra'a comes when it's dark at night. He writes that Ayom, today in our time, Ein Makpidim al Zeh. O mishum she'ein ruach ra mitzuya, o mishum shor p'sayim Hashem. Fine, there are certain protections in our time. Now, v'im shasa dama barocho, the Brisa tells us it's very dangerous to drink water in that dark situation on those 2 nights of the week. When Sakana is exposing himself to danger. All the sugis that we've been learning have been trying to protect and prevent us from exposing ourselves to the danger. My sakana, ruach ra, and the danger is a ruach ra, which is shora on the mayim at these nights, during these nights. Gemara says, v'im tzachi, if on the other hand he's thirsty, my takante, he needs to drink something, so what can you offer him to protect him against the ruach ra? So the Gemara says that he should be reading psukim from Sefer Tehillim, which psukim? And that is from the Shiva Kolos Sha'omar David Alamayim, V'hadun Nishte, and then he can drink. And this is a kapitel in Tehillim Chavtes, Kol Hashem Alamayim, Kel HaKavod Hirim, Hashem Alamayim Rabim, Kol Hashem Bakoach, Kol Hashem Ba'adar, Kol Hashem Shover Arazim, Vaishaber Hashem Arazei Alvanon, Kol Hashem Chotzev Lavotz Eish, Kol Hashem Yochil Midbar, Yochil Hashem Midbar Kadesh, Kol Hashem Yichalel Yolos, Vayachsof Yoros, Vaychalo Kulo Mer Kavod. So there are 7 different kolos over here. And these kolos, at least some of them explicitly mention Mayim, and that's why it's called Shiva Kolos Sha'omar David Al Mayim. For example, if you take a look at the first of the 7, it says Kol Hashem Al Mayim. And we're going to assume that all 7 kolos that are mentioned here in this kapitel are all al hamayim. So that when he's drinking water and he needs the protection from a ruach ra'ah, he should recite these sheva kolos that David HaMelech recited over the water. Kol Hashem al hamayim. The Maharsha adds that these sheva kolos are sheva kedushos shel Hashem Yisbarach. These are 7 kedushos of Hashem. Ve'ilo, if for one reason or another he cannot recite these psukim, maybe he needs a siddur or a tehillim, he doesn't have it, and also there's halacha of dvarim shebechsav yet harashoim lomer bal peh, the psukim should be read from inside. So therefore, Lema Hachi, let him recite the following incantation: Lul Shafan Anigron Aniradofin, Anirdofin, Bein Kolchave Yosivna. It's something to do with sitting amongst the stars. Bein Belie Shamine Azilna. I'm going amongst weak people and fat people. So choose which one of them you might want to attack. Don't attack me. Let's just read this in the English translation. He says that if he's not able to say to recite the 7 kolos, then he recites this incantation, and I sit between the stars, I go between thin and fat people. He says, choose from amongst them, leave me alone. And I'm not exactly sure why he should be sending them to anyone else, but he's not sending anyone else in particular. He's just saying, don't bother me. Elo, let's say he cannot say this incantation, maybe he doesn't know it. If he can find another person together with him, then nisare valemole, wake up a person and say to him, Planya bar palnosa, bar planosa, so and so the son of, and here he uses a female because he's referring to the mother, Sachino Maya, would like water. Vahada nishte, and then he can drink. He mentions the name of his companion and his companion's mother. And this is just to say out loud, let the evil spirits know that he's not alone, because the evil spirits have more of a tendency of being afraid of groups or two people more than one. Now, let's just see. He says, I don't know exactly the difference between a lachash and a skula. He quotes the Ben Yehoyada, Shalideze Shekori Lechavero. Once he calls to his friend, Targich Ruach Ra'ach Yechimo Od Echad Vol Tizkarabo Lahaziko B'Shtias Mayim. And why does he mention his friend's mother's name? Kidei Sharuach Tishma Shnei Shemos Tachshav Sheisham Od Shnayim Imo. But in general, when we ask for divine protection, we mention the name of a mother. He quotes also Gemara Brachas Shlosha. If there are three people together, they near Mazikim Kalika, they didn't even show up. And here they get the feeling that there are three people there. The Elo, he can't find anyone else, is Mekarkesh Nachtoma Achatzba. He should bang with a pot lid on a pot that has water in it. And once again, that noise will give the impression that there's someone else there. And once again, the Ruach Ra will shy away. Vahadar Nishte, he can drink. The Elo, if he doesn't have a lid to make this noise, Nishte Ba Mide. She Yashlich Bekad Dover Ma Vahadar Nishte. Take any object that he has and throw it into a pot, and that'll make a noise. And he could go ahead and drink. We learned in the Brisa. Lo yishta adamayim lo mina naharos lo mina gamim balayla. At night, he should not be drinking water neither from rivers nor streams. And the reason for this is because of sakana, chasadama barosho. He's endangering his life. And this drinking at night from the rivers, etc., is a dangerous situation. My sakana, what's the danger? Sakanas shavriri. Shavriri is blindness. And this again has to do with demons and shadim, that the shade who's in charge of blindness is called Shavriri. That's his name. And Shavriri is the Targum of the word Sanverim in the story there of Lot and his daughters, etc. So that's Shavriri. And Ve'it Sachi, if he's very thirsty, and it's a dangerous situation for him, because of the Shavriri, my Takanti, what could he do to protect himself and drink if he's thirsty? Ika Inichbad, if he has someone else, Lemale, as we saw before, Planya Bar Planoisa, Sachino Mayim, that so-and-so needs to drink water, and he mentions the name of his companion. V'lo, if he can't find the companion name, he should say, Ilu Nafshe, speak about his own self in third person. Planya, so-and-so, Omro Li Imi, is Darami Shavre, Shavre Bariri, Riri, Riri, Ri. So this is an incantation of Lachash, and the shade gradually diminishes when he hears every time that they mention his name, and it cuts down his name. He started with Chavriri, then he drops the shin, he gets to Briri, and then he drops the base, he drops the resh, he drops the yud, until finally ends up with resh yud. By that time, the shade is already he's already shriveled up into nothing. And finally, tzachina maya bekase chivre. He should announce out loud that he's thirsty to drink water from earthenware cups that are white in color, because the shade who's in charge and supervised over kosos, it's kosos shel cheres, these earthenware cups. So he refers to himself by saying, so and so, my mother said to me, beware of etc. etc. I'm thirsty for water in new earthenware cup. And he points out here that when the demon hears his name being reduced letter by letter, he will be induced to flee. And again, this is all about drinking at night from rivers or ponds. Now, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah seems to indicate that we're prohibited from drinking water from rivers or ponds even during the day. So the Pri Chodesh is machalik between drinking directly from his mouth, from the water, or drinking his hand. In any event, that has to be studied carefully. But as opposed to drinking from rivers and ponds, it's not dangerous on most nights of the week. And we're going to have to see what's unique about certain nights of the week. Let's go on. The Gemara tells us now that we learned in the Mishnah that afilu, even a poor person is minatamchui, we will supply him with dalid kosos from the community chest. The Gabbai Tzedakah will make sure that he has 4 cups of wine. So the Gemara says, Pshita, a person in the Mishnah, it's Yimkaras Malbushok, they liknots yayin liarba kosos. He even has to sell his garment to buy wine for dalid kosos. Pshita, certainly, he should do whatever he can in order to fulfill the mitzvahs of Hashem. What's the exact chiddush here as far as dalid kosos? Lo nitzcha ela afilu le Rabbi Akiva. The Omer asay Shabbat chol the al titztarech lebrios. That a person, rather than having to come on to panhandle and request funds from others to help him out, he should make his Shabbos chol. The al yitztarech lebrios, rather than needing to come on to ask for gifts from other people. Let's elaborate a little bit on this concept of al yitztarech lebrios. Treat your Shabbos as a weekday. Do not be dependent upon people for aid. Rabbi Akiva maintains that although one is commanded to eat 3 meals on Shabbos, but nevertheless he should not resort to charity in order to do this mitzvah. So if one has enough money for 2 meals but not for 3, treat the Shabbos as a weekday and eat only 2 meals. And honoring the Shabbos, as we know, with food and drink and dress. This is the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos, Kavod Shabbos. And a greater delight is not to have to be dependent upon others. Maybe that's a kiyum of Oneg for him, that he doesn't have to request aid from others. Now, should one seek charity to fulfill other mitzvahs other than Oneg and Kavod Shabbos? That's a discussion in the Yerushalmi at the beginning of Masechet Peah. And the Bir Halacha has an entire presentation about this in Siman Tafresh Nunva. Okay, fine. So now let's see what we can accomplish in terms of this Gemara. Gemara says that, right, we said Eino Adam Tzarech Limkar L'Spazos Limkar Spagado B'Shvil Kod Shabbos, and we would have said that the same logic should apply to Daled Kotzos, that he shouldn't humiliate himself, sell his begadim, and have to take on loans and charity and so forth. So therefore, the Mishnah had to say that Hacha, here in the case of Daled Kotzos, it's different. He shouldn't pursue Nisa. That reciting the Haggadah and drinking the cups of wine is a kiyum of Pirsum Anes, like a Kiddush Hashem. And even Rabbi Akiva would admit that he should sell the shirt off his back in order to buy yayin for the Dalit Kotzos for Pirsum Anes, even if it means humiliating himself, even if it means he's going to have to take aid and request funds from other people in order to buy let's say a malbush for Pesach, or a malbush to replace the one that he's selling in order to have money to buy Dalit Kotzos. There is a sheet of Tosfos that Lo Yimna Atzmo Mikachas Min HaTamchi L'Tzorach Arba Kosos. And again, what's the special emphasis here on Tamchui? L'Kabel Min HaTamchi Kavshila Merubin U'Lemochram L'Tzorach Arba Kosa. Could be that the Tamchui doesn't have Dalit Kosos, but they have food that he can sell and use the funds to buy Dalit Kosos. And it's a special bucha. It's very humiliating to receive money from the tamchut, because when he gets whatever he gets from the tamchut, he sells it in order to convert that money into Dalit Kotzos. Everybody knows about it. And with regard to Kavod Shabbos, Rabbi Akiva's position was that he doesn't have to humiliate himself. And the Mishnah wants to tell him, but here in the case of Pirsum Anes, even if it entails an element of lisbazos, of humiliating himself to buy the Dalit Kotzos, he's chayiv to do so. And the Chassam Sofer adds that even Rabbi Akiva would be modeh that for any mitzvah that he has to take from the Tamchui, and he's required to do so, the Chassam Sofer claims that Rabbi Akiva said his din as far as Suda Shlishis, which is Zeichel Aman, because it says Hayom 3 times in the parsha, and that's the Midah Bitachon. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva says, if he's going to have to come on to others as a result, that's going to undermine his Midah Bitachon. Therefore, it's better that he do Shabbos Chol. But it would apply to other mitzvahs as well. We had a Havmina to compare Dalit Kotzos, which is Zeichel Cherus, and compare it to the third Suda on Shabbos. In Masker Atzmo L'Tzorach Zeh Harezeh Soser Acherus. And we would have thought that maybe selling himself, so to speak, if he offers himself to do work and get the funds to buy the Dalit Kotzos, it's almost like he's going back to slavery. That's not derech cherus. That's not. That's absolutely antithetical to cherus. That's where the Mishnah comes to Mechadish, that because of Pirsum Anes, even if he has to hire himself out in order to, or sell his garments in order to buy Dalit Kotzos, he's obligated to do. Tana de Be'alio, Afal Pisha Omer Rabbi Akiva Say Shabbat Chol Yal Titztarech Brios. However, a person during the days of the week, he should be mitzamtzem v'osu davar muad b'toch beisa, and he should have at least something that he can enhance for covered Shabbos. Minding, what is the barest minimum that would be an act that's clearly l'chod Shabbos? Amra Papa Kasa Deharsana. These are little fish, small fish that are fried with flour and oil. Kidisnan, we learned in the Mishnah, the 5th parak of Amos, Rabbi Yehuda ben Teimomer, Havi az kinomer. A person should strengthen himself in mitzvahs with a power and an active force and maximize his potential. He should be kal kenecha, rot kitzvi, gibar kari, lasos ritzon, avicha shebashamayim. And in the case of Shabbos, he should add something, some minimum enhancement of his food, l'chvod Shabbos, even if it means going beyond his capabilities. And we'll mention here that Kasa de Harsana, as we said before, small fried fish in their own oils and flour. And he quotes Saimik Shaila that Rav Papa's point is that one should have at least one cooked or fried dish on Shabbos, in addition to the loaves of bread. And the requirement has a smachta in Shmos Perek Tezayin Pasuk Chav Gimel. And what we're learning here also appears in the Mishnah in Avos. Maharsha explains that there are four Lashonos here in Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, and these are connected. Arbad Dvarim Hamonim Es Ha'adam Milekayim Ratan Hashem. There are four things that are impediments to fulfill God's will. One is anius, is poverty. Number two is oivim rishoim, enemies. Number three is mazel ha'adam, sometimes he has a bad mazel. And four is the yetzer hara. And a person should strengthen himself against these four impediments. Number one, az kenomer, az is koach, and this is going to give him the ability, even despite his poverty. Kal kenesher, which means she is zaris atzmo keneged mazol shebashamayim, raz kitzvi shiyoretz mipnei arishoim. The zaris atzmo l'kayim mitzvah Hashem gibor kari, she is gaber keneged yetara. Moshe Amru ezu gibor hakovesh es yitzro. Ton rabbanon shiva dvarim tziva Rabbi Akiva es Rabbi Yeshua beno. This is Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, and Karcha is a reference to Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara tells us in Bechoros that Ben Azai and all Chachmei Yisrael domim alai keklipa sashum chut min hakirech hazeh. Ben Azai admits that, Rabbi Akiva, who's called the Kireach here, he can't put him together with all the other Chachamim. What does Rabbi Akiva, what legacy does he transmit to his son, Rabbi Yeshua? B'ni al teishe b'gova shel ir. Don't sit on the high point of the city that overlooks the city where people pass by, v'tishna, and there try to study, because you'll be distracted. If the mayor of the city is a great scholar, he's going to be busy with his Torah, his Daf Yomi. He won't have the time and the energy to put into overseeing the needs of the city. So find yourself a different city. Don't all of a sudden burst into your house without notifying people that you're coming in. And even in your own house, how much more so to your people are doing things that they don't want to be seen, and be sensitive to their modesty, to their needs. So we're now ready for the fourth instruction of Rabbi Akiva to his son, Rabbi Yoshua. And that is, V'al timna min olim miraglecha. It's not a good idea for a Talmid Chacham to walk around barefoot. He should always have his shoes on. And the Gemara actually tells us at the end of Masechet Shabbos, Yimkar Adam Kol Ma Sheyeshlo. A person should be willing to sell everything, V'yikach min olim l'raglo, to buy shoes so that he could wear shoes, because it's quite dangerous. Either he might step on a nail or glass, or he might catch a cold. Number 5, hashkem ve'echol. Wake up early and eat your breakfast, your pas shachar, it's what we call. B'kayitz u'pnei achama, in the summertime because of the heat, u'b'choref mipnei hatzina, and in the winter because of the cold. In other words, a person should make sure that he eats in order to strengthen his body, and especially during the cold season and even during the hot season. And he says the following, that after eating, one has the strength to fend off sickness brought about by either heat or by cold. And the Gemara in Bava Metzia speaks about 13 advantages of pas shachas, of the morning breakfast. V'asei Shabbat chachol ve'al titztarech lebrios ve'hevei mishtadel im odom sh'Hashem mesachekes lo. It's a good idea if you see somebody has good fortune and he's wealthy. He gets the right advice and he invests in the stock market. And he has a career. He makes a lot of money. That's a person that you want to become a partner with, because you'll be able to share some of his good fortune. And that's called Shasha Misachekes Lo. Omar of Papa. That which Rabbi Akiva said, that the last of the 7, Lo lemizvan minei, not to buy from such a person, V'lo lezabune le, nor to sell such a person, because that person has a great mazel, and you may lose by selling to him. Maybe you'll undercharge him, or if you buy from him, maybe he'll undercharge you. El never should this, but what Rabbi Akiva has in mind is that you should partner with him in some sort of business deal, and you'll get part of the profits. The Satan says, he declares about the success of Eov. This is recorded at the beginning of Sefer Eov. Maisa Yodov Berachta, meaning that you, God, have blessed the handiwork of Eov. And this teaches us that that anyone who took a pruta from Eov, meaning he involved himself in some sort of business connection with Eov, is hafilu mizvan minei ulasabuni leishapir dam. According to Rav Shmuel, quoting this pasuk in Eov, any sort of business transaction that you have with a person who's shah misachekes lo, who's blessed, is going to bring you blessing, even if it's selling to him or buying from him. It's not limited, as we saw before in Rav Papa, to the shutfis aspect, to joining him in a partnership. And it's even okay to buy from him or sell to him. And that's based on the fact that if someone has a bracha, then any interaction with him, you'll have a bracha, even if it's only a pruta, only a very small amount. So the success of one fortunate person is sort of like contagious, and any other person who has a business dealing of any sort with him will also gain that bracha. Chamisha Dvarim Tziva Rabbi Akiva es Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Now, Reb Shimon ben Yochai is a student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is now Kshoya Chovish B'Beis Asurim. He's incarcerated because he violated the Gzeira of the Roman government and he taught Torah. And now Reb Shimon ben Yochai, his main disciple, comes to visit Rabbi Akiva in jail. Amalo. And Reb Shimon turns to his Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, Lamdeni Torah, please teach me Torah. Now, keep in mind that teaching Torah would be a very dangerous enterprise and violate the Gzeira of the Roman government. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to bother Rabbi Akiva. He's already in jail, but he doesn't want to endanger the life of his student, Reb Shimon bar Yochai, who might end up in jail as well. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva pushes him away. Amar lo, he says to him, Eini melamedcha. I'm not willing to teach you Torah and endanger your life. It's bad enough that they locked me up in jail, and now they're going to lock you up in jail if I teach you Torah. So I don't want to endanger your life. Amar lo. So Reb Shimon bar Yochai is not willing to accept that answer. He says, if you won't teach me Torah, Ani Omer lo Yochai Abba, I'm going to tell my father Yochai, who is very close to the Russian inner circles in the Roman government, Umoser Chalamalchus, and uh, he's going to uh, tattle against you to the Romans. And even though Rabbi Akiva was already locked up in jail for teaching Torah, nevertheless, there are more serious violations of the Russian decree, and he's going to tell you. Now, the Mefarshim say that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai didn't actually mean this. He wasn't going to go through with this. This was just his way of telling Rabbi Akiva how important for him, how crucial it is for his very life that Rabbi Akiva teach him Torah. Amalo. So at this point, Rabbi Akiva says to Bini, you should know, Yosem Imasha Egel Rotza Linok, Hora Rotza Lahanik. More than the calf wants to drink and suckle from its mother, the mother wants to suckle its young. Either because she has the milk and she wants to relieve herself of the pressure of the milk, or just simply because of her love for the child. She has such a great desire to suckle the child. Therefore, you should know that for me, it's even more important for me to teach you than for you to study Torah from me. Amalo, so Shimon says to Rabbi Akiva, Umi b'sakana. If the mother will suckle its child, its calf, who's going to be in danger? Hello, egel b'sakana. In other words, through the process of suckling, it could be that the egel, the calf itself, might die. V'chein kan. Here's the nimshal. You're already locked up in jail. There's very little danger. Things cannot get much worse. I would be exposing myself to danger if I learn from you. What do you care? If I'm willing to give up my life to study your Torah, that's not your business. If my teaching me Torah would really seriously endanger your life, Rabbi Akiva, then I can understand you have the right to refuse me. But if I'm willing to endanger my life and you're not incurring any additional danger of any significance, so at this point, Rabbi Akiva teaches him 5 things. Now, my impression, again, this is just Berzon talking, that these 5 things are like a hidden way of teaching Torah, so that anyone who hears them, understanding them on a superficial level, will think that he's just giving good ideas, good recommendations, and suggestions to how to live one's life. And it might not be considered a violation of the Roman decree. It's not really teaching Torah. So here are the 5 teachings of Rabbi Akiva to his Talmud, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Number 1, Im bikashta leichane ki tole be'ilan gadol. In other words, if you want to teach Torah and transmit Torah to others in such a way that they'll accept your Torah, they'll receive it, then you should learn in front of a great rabbi and transmit the Torah in the name of that rabbi. And since he's a great, well-accepted, well-known, renowned rabbi, people will accept your Torah. He says, "Ima tarotza lachnok es chavercha shel yuchal lanos al dvarecha." Okay, he learns the mashal is that no one will be able to reject your words of Torah. And then they can't shoot you down. Kevan Rabbi Akiva dima b'mashal es liman ator b'sakana lanokas ha'egel b'sakanas chanika l'chen kshara shemoser nafshal lomalo haTorah zos shenemra b'mashal al sakanas chenek tal lumod b'shas sakana miyadam gadol shezchuso togein alecha. That maybe by learning Torah from an Onam Gadol, he has a great schutz at Onam Gadol, he's got a great merit, and that will protect your life. If you're willing to put your life into danger, make sure you're learning it from You're learning that Torah, which endangers your life from a great rabbi. Number two, when you're teaching Torah, the written Torah to your son, that's a chiv on the father. Lamdeu b'sefer muga. Make sure that the manuscript that you're using has been edited properly and there are no mistakes. And the Gemara asks, Maihi, what kind of limud do we have to be so careful about that maybe there's a mistake and the father would transmit a mistake to his son? Amarovi Temar Sharshia Bechadeta. In other words, the son is learning something brand new from this sefer, and he's never learned it before. And why do we have to be so careful and meticulous to make sure that the girsa, the text, is accurate and reliable? Because shabesh even the all. Because if this young student, this young son, will make a mistake, once that mistake goes into his brain, it's very, very difficult to get it out of his brain. Number three, lo savashal b'kterish b'chavercha. Don't cook in a pot that was used by your friend. What does that mean? What's the nimshal? Grusha. That you shouldn't marry a divorced woman because, number one, if she was divorced, there must be a reason for that. But furthermore, b'chaye baila, if her ex is still alive, the Omar Mar, a statement of an anonymous Amora Gorish Anasa Grusha, if he's divorced and his wife is divorced, Arba Deos Bemita. No, it's he's thinking while he has intimate relations about his first wife, she's thinking about her first husband, plus it's four different deos. Now, this only applies in the case of a grusha. It doesn't apply in the case of an almana. If he lost his wife, he's an almana, or she lost her husband, she's an almana. And that's because there was Xeris HaKasuv, the Torah declared that a person will be forgotten after 12 months. Right? Chazak al amesh shenishtachach min alev yud beis chodesh. It doesn't mean that you forget about someone after 12 months, but it's not such a profound memory. You can experience things and you would be free of constantly dwelling on the past. Ibais Ema, there's another way of interpreting Rabbi Akiva's statement. Afilu b'nosei almana, even if he's marrying a woman who lost her first husband, lefi, and here we're taking a look at Kuf Yud Beis Amid Beis, she'ein kol etzbos shavos, which is a hint at the male organ that she may remember what kind of pleasure she got from her previous husband. Then Rabbi Akiva tells his Talmud, he says, mitzvah v'guf gadol. Now, the concept here of guf here, which literally means a body, is a reference to, I believe, schar mitzvah. In other words, when you do a mitzvah, then keep in mind that you will benefit from that mitzvah and you will gain, if you're careful about the mitzvah, you'll gain great reward. Now, let me just read to you a note over here. He says that that if one wishes to perform a mitzvah and profit handsomely, which I think is reference to the reward from it as well, is, I don't know, it's a little bit confusing to me because the Gemara here seems to be referring to monetary profit. So I don't know why the emphasis here is on mitzvah, to profit from a mitzvah. We don't usually get monetary profit from a mitzvah. I just want to see one more time here if somebody says anything here. Not sure here. He quotes the Aruch, Pirei Shemamono Nishma, Shamos Yichos Li Gonev, Ilu Karka in Nigneves. I don't know, somehow he's talking about burying funds on the ground so nobody will steal them. I don't know what that has to do with mitzvah. It's a strange combination here between mitzvah and some monetary benefit, and didn't catch the linkage between the two. Maybe David, you'll have it in your commentary. You could share that with me. He says, "Ochel piros velot sachar." In other words, what you should do is, instead of extending a loan to someone and having to depend upon the ability of the lover to repay the loan, you should set up a different kind of business transaction, which is called mashkanta desura, which means what you do is the lover, when he comes to borrow money, he owns karka, so you become a partner in his karka. Let's say you work the karka for 10 years, and all the profits are yours, you're the malva. And then, in lieu of all the profits that you've achieved over that 10-year period of time, the lover doesn't have to return the money. And the Gemara is saying that that's a very, very beneficial and worthwhile investment. On the one hand, you're extending a loan, that itself is a great mitzvah. But at the same time, you don't have to suffer any monetary loss and be dependent upon the lover being able to repay you or collect from his karka and so forth and so on. This way, you're guaranteed income, and you'll be making more money than if he paid you back the money of the loan, because such is the profits on an annual basis from a piece of karka, and you multiply that by 10 years, it's even more money than the halva is worth. The question is why it's not ribis. That's a different issue. So he writes, Bishvil achilas haperos, v'naka mischum halva, schum mua, b'chol chodesh, b'chol shana. So in other words, with every additional year that you, the malva, gain the profits from the lova's karka, you subtract and diminish the chov itself. V'kach yelecha revach gadol. So you'll have both the mitzvah of extending halva, and at the same time you'll benefit financially. So I guess this is a case of mitzvah v'guf gadol. In other words, you're doing a mitzvah, and guf gadol means you'll have monetary benefit from the mitzvah as well. And there's no contradiction. Now, mitzvah guf tahar, if you want a mitzvah with a guf tar, is no say isha v'lo banim. You'll marry a woman and you'll have children with her. And that's going to be guf tar. Now, the guf tar here is because when a man is alone and he's not married, he has hirhurim. He has all sorts of thoughts. So marriage protects him from all those thoughts. And at the same time, if he has children from that wife, he's Makayim the mitzvah period of Arivia. So he gains both the mitzvah and also a guftar. Guftar means that he's protected from all these different thoughts. He has a long quote here from the Igros Moshe of Moshe Feinstein. Apparently, lo banim means that through the woman that he's going to marry, he'll have children. So he performs the mitzvah period of Rivya, and he sublimates his base urges. Within the framework of marriage, he'll have a guf noki. Alternatively, he says, no se isha lo banim means lo banim. He already has children from a previous marriage. Nevertheless, he should still get married because he has these passions and there's no halachic permissibility for an outlet for those passions. So therefore, if a bachelor gets, he gets married, then he'll be able to overcome all these involuntary thoughts that come to his mind. Arba Dvar Tziva Rabbeinu HaKadosh Es Bana. Now we go on to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and he left 4 recommendations for his children. Number 1, okay, just 1 second. Let me take a pause.